Welcome to Big G's Adventures. I brought you down here to Weaver's Bend of the river. This is the French Broad River. And I wanted to bring you down here to share a story that I have, but I also want to tell you what I think about Bigfoot. I mean, everybody seems to be an expert these days. Ain't nobody an expert. Till you catch one, you can study it. You're not an expert. So, but I will give you my opinion on it, which absolutely means nothing. But as being an eyewitness to seeing one, I can just tell you what my observations are and what I think they are as far as a spiritual thing, because I believe they are spiritual, and I don't mean in a good way. Um, Native Americans believe they were friends, but they there was reports that they killed and ate people. So I don't think they're a benevolent creature. I think they are a spiritual creature, and I think it's more like on the dark side. Um, and I'll tell you from a perspective of my actual encounter. Now, my encounter happened right down the road here, about a half a mile from where I'm sitting. You come up here and you want to go back down there and look, you can see it. It'll be on the, I think it's the second place on the right as you come down in here to Weaver's Bend. But somebody's camping down there, so I can't go down there and film any of it. I've come over here twice, and both times it's people I think living there, but I don't know. Anyway, I was born and raised in Limestone, Tennessee, which is right there in Greene County, right up against Viking Mountain, so everybody will know where that's at. And so my dad was an avid hunter, and every weekend we would go to the mountains and we would ride through some of the really bad places in the mountains. And back then, there were actual communities living in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. And so I remember all those times. I went hunting with my dad a lot, and my dad would take me out in the middle of the woods and set me off, and he would take off somewhere, and I wouldn't see him for 4 or 5 hours. And so at an early age, I was about 6 or 7 years old when my mother forced him to take me hunting with him. So I didn't get to really experience anything with him. I just experienced being left in the woods. But it'll make you grow up real quick. It'll teach you that there's really nothing to fear in the woods until you come upon something that you need to fear in the woods. So first off, I believe that Bigfoot are not the Nephilim, but I believe they are a product of the Watchers. If you do your Bible research, in chapter 6 of Genesis, it talks about the sons of God desiring to, saw the women or the daughters of men, and through their lust, they copulated with them, and they begat giants. It doesn't say how many. But if you go into the book of Giants, it was a book that was found in Qumran during the time they were finding all these Dead Sea Scrolls. It explains a lot. Now, these watchers and the head watcher, I'm trying to think of what his name is. Azazel is his name. He was the head angel, and I believe he taught man how to forge and make steel blades, how to be a warrior. But other fallen angels, or these watchers, taught cosmetics. They taught so many different things to the children of men that they were not supposed to be teaching. Now, they did all kinds of experiments where they bred different animals to make, I believe, what we call these chimeras, or these cryptids that we call today, like the centaur and the man goat type creature. And I believe some of these Nephilims were giants. They were powerful. They were demigods, part man, part God. And I believe Hercules is one of them, and Atlas. And Gilgamesh was one of the Nephilim. But now the book of Giants also talks about them creating monsters. And I believe these monsters are these Bigfoot that people are seeing. I think they are not the Nephilim as far as being a human and being a giant, but they are more like a creature that's a giant. And I believe they have spiritual power. And I'm going to give you my proof of what I believe it is. And you guys can think about that and let me know in the comment what you think. Actually, I didn't even put it in the video because I forgot it, but here's what I think my proof would be that they're a spiritual creature. The fact that they can mind speak with you, because the coincidence of me having that thought and it being so compelling for me to get out of the vehicle and go down there to that tree and to that trail and see that Bigfoot, that's not just a coincidence. So if, and I'm not the only person that's had this experience with what's called mind speak, but if they can speak to you, I wouldn't converse with them. I would probably just go ahead and bind that and stay away from it. So I brought my dog over here to pray in the mountains. This was back in 2022, I believe it was. Uh, I brought the dog over here because I wanted to pray. And sometimes when I really am seeking God, I will come to these mountains. I come over here to the Appalachian Mountains. I love these mountains. I've done it before now. My experience with a Bigfoot that I did not see uh, happened back in 2004, I believe it is. We were having a revival, and I wanted to come over to the mountains and pray every night. And it's not far from here. Now, Weaver's Bend is down into a valley where French Broad comes down, rolling down through here. And Paint Mountain is where I had went to pray for our revival, and I experienced something I can't tell you is a Bigfoot, but let me tell you what happened, and you can determine what you think it is. I went up there to pray, and this was before I even had Rowdy. I went up there to pray for the revival, and I went up there 2 or 3 nights in a row. I had spent a lot of time up there hunting before. There's a Boy Scout camp that goes out a trail that's pretty close to where I had this experience. And I have videos showing that exact location if you want to. I'll try to leave a link in the description for that video. And so that way you can actually see where it's at. And for a long time, I wouldn't tell where it was at, but I don't care. If you want to go up there and look and try to experience something for yourself, by all means, go up there. It's the only way now you can get up there or even into Paint Creek, because Paint Creek one of the roads got washed out, and now you can't get in there unless you go that way. I was up there praying, and I just finished prayer. It was dark. It takes me an hour to drive over to the mountain where I was going to pray, so it was dark by the time I was getting ready to leave. This was in the fall of the year because it got dark kind of early. As soon as I got off work, I would go up into the mountains. It's an hour drive up there, an hour back. So I went up there and I was praying, and by the time I got done, it sounded like something just tearing the mountain down. I mean, it sounded like a bulldozer crashing down through off of this ridge. And when it got to the bottom, I was wondering what in the world this thing is, because I've never experienced anything. It sounded like it was snapping every tree on its way down. And back at that time, there had been a fire several years before that, and most of the stuff was pretty small, 25, 30 foot tall trees. I I reached down in the car and got my dad's 357 Magnum. He had a Colt Python that was one of the few things that I got after he passed away. And I just pulled it out and I was holding it up to where it would be ready if this thing come out of the woods. I thought it was a bear, but I've never heard anything sound like it was just tearing trees off and snapping them as it's coming down through. I waited for this thing to step out, and all at once I seen this tree just swinging back and forth. And I'm thinking, what in the world could, I mean, this tree wasn't just going over like this, like a bear pushing against it. It was swinging back and forth uh, like it was some small bush, but this was a 30-foot tall tree. And I couldn't see because it was dark, the woods was dark. So I stood and aimed the pistol in that direction, waiting for this thing to step out when it growled. And when this thing growled, I could feel it in my chest. I mean, it felt like my bones was rattling inside of me. And it was such a deep and guttural growl, it caused my body to completely freeze. I couldn't move. And so I finally, when I did, able to move, I'm not sure if it would have walked out if I could even have shot this thing, but I was there to protect myself. But I came to when I could actually free myself and move. I stepped in the car and drove off. Now I wasn't like scared to death and couldn't move because I had my pistol. I was pretty confident, but when I couldn't move, that kind of freaked me out. So fast forward to back in 2022 when me and the dog was down here. Uh, I was praying, and when I got finished praying, I kept hearing something walking in the woods, and I heard a snap, and I thought, well, that's no deer. More than likely, it's a bear. And I was scared to death for my dog. I didn't want my dog to be harmed. I didn't have no weapons on me or anything. And so I put him in the truck and decided, okay, it's time to go. We'll just go. And whatever this thing is meandering around in the woods, we'll just ignore it and go on. And so after I put him in the truck, I got in the truck and reached for my keys to turn the ignition. And I heard this voice in my head saying, come over here. I want to show you something. And come over here meant come to these two trees that's kind of growing up like this in that direction. And there was a trail on the other side of it because I had stepped over to that trail earlier while we were there. And I was thinking to myself, man, that's crazy. Why would I even say that to myself? Because it sounded like my voice in my head. And I just ignored it. So I reached for the keys again. And just as I started to turn the key, that voice hit me again. Come over here. I want to show you something. And this time it was so powerful. And I didn't want to ignore it this time. I thought if I ignore this and I drive off, something's going to be there. And I missed it. But I didn't give it any credence. I got out of the truck. Sorry, I'm scratching because there's mosquitoes eating me alive. Uh, I got out of the truck, but I left him in there. And I walked over to where those trees is at. And as soon as I walked past those trees and down into that trail, I saw it was a Bigfoot. And it come walking off this bank. The bank was about 4 foot, I guess, something like that. It took one step off of that bank onto the trail and took another step. And I reached for my phone. Now, to describe what it looked like, for some reason, I couldn't look it in the face. I didn't see its face. I saw its legs. And this thing, its hair was not brown. It wasn't, it looked like a black bear, or if you have seen a black lab, that's exactly what it looked like. There was no white spots on it. It didn't appear to be any mud on it, but all I seen was from about chest down. And I can say that I am 6 foot, and I would say my head would have probably come close to its crotch, or maybe its navel. If it had one, I didn't see that. So this thing was a giant, and I reached in my pocket, and my phone was in the truck on the cradle. And I'm like, this, you're an idiot for not bringing your phone. So I ran back, got the phone. When I came back, this thing disappeared. Now, behind me here is the river. That's the way it was walking. Wherever it went, it didn't go in the river because the river's not deep enough to hide. It's pretty shallow through there. And the river was down at the time. This thing did not run across the river. It didn't run back up the road because my truck was very close to where this actually happened. See this tree behind me? That's how far away my truck was from these two trees that I was telling you about that I seen this thing. I just want to tell the story and get it out there. But I can tell you something. I don't make any money off my YouTube. I'm not monetized. I'm not trying to sell my books. I'm an author. I have free books that I self-publish. You can't get them on Amazon. The only way to get them is through me. I'm not even going to mention the names of the books because I'm not here to sell a book. If you want to contact me and talk to me about my books, that's one thing, but I'm not here to sell a book. I've self-published. I ain't made that much money. I pay for the printing. That's basically it. And I am currently working on a book that's going to be about the mysteries of the Appalachians because I've had so many weird things happen to me, and I've heard so many stories through the years. And so I am going to write a book. When it's ready, I will come on and probably try to promote it because it would be nice to actually be paid for the months and months it takes to write a book and all the research that you do. But this video is not about that either. It's just about getting out this information of what I think Bigfoot is. I believe that they can disappear. I think they can turn invisible. I think they are a spiritual being that can take a physical form and then go right back to being a spiritual form and vanishing before your eyes. I heard this story about these two men. They were driving, it was in a logging road. Now, it wasn't in Tennessee. This was out west somewhere, I believe. And to me, their testimony seemed to me to be the most true testimony I've heard in a long time about Bigfoot. They were driving, this guy actually worked for this older guy, and they were driving. If you look it up on YouTube, I believe you can find it. I will try to find it and leave a description or I'll try to leave a link in the description or some way to let you know how to find that video that floated above the ground and then took off. And when I heard that story, I felt like that was probably closer to a description of what Bigfoot is. Bigfoot is not some just physical creature like a Neanderthal man or something of that type. I believe they are spiritual because you don't find any dead bodies. If you hear somebody say they found a dead body, don't believe it. It's going to be a hoax. Uh, I think this is probably the closest thing that you can get to what I think they are. I can't unsee what I saw. I can't I can't lie about it and just say I didn't see it. I told you exactly what I saw, the experiences that I had. I'll also include the footprint that me and my wife found about 3 or 4 months after that happened. I believe it was in January that me and her was there. Anyway, I think I have it in another video of where I show that footprint. But it's a pretty clear footprint. It's a lot larger than mine. My foot I wear a size 13 shoe, triple E, and so I got a pretty good sized foot. I'll be showing it right now. these are the things that I really wanted to share with you, and get out here and talk about stories. If you have a story of your own and you would like to share it, you can email me. I think I have the email there that you can email me, or you can contact me. Um, just look up Gordon Graham, and it's spelled Gordangraham. You can send me a friend invite, and basically that's my story. And I think these things are truly spiritual in nature, and I believe that people that are seeing these creatures called dogmen, I think this stuff is end time event type stuff. I believe that these creatures are going to be turned on people. Now, I could be totally wrong. It's just my own thoughts, my own beliefs, and they don't really count for nothing. But, I just kind of know what you think about it. You don't have to be hostile in the comments. If you are, I'm just going to delete you because I ain't going to put up with stuff like that. Um, but we've been in some pretty rough places, and we could be way back in the mountains where there's nobody and hear a wood knock, just a loud, it sounds just like somebody taking a stick and hitting the side of a tree, like a cracking sound. We hear that all the time. So what do you guys hear when you're out in the woods? Do you ever see anything um, that would make you think that there's something there besides just human intervention? Anyway, please leave something in the comments. If you have any questions, I read every comment, and I try to answer every comment if they're asking a question. And I'm so blessed to have this platform to share my experiences. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences back in my past, um, especially when my dad was still living, and we lived out there on that farm I was telling you about, where I saw this little, I don't know if you'd call it an elf or whatever, but it was a very small creature. Um, if you have a story, please leave it in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. If you can give us a thumbs up, it helps so much. And please subscribe, because I don't make anything. I'm retired. I don't make any money from this. I don't even pay for my gas, which is pretty high right now. And it's expensive to drive this Jeep over into these mountains. But this is a place for me and Rowdy to get away. And we come over here so we can be away from everybody and away from everything that's going on in town. And we come over here, and we can pray and seek the Lord and not be bothered by outside influences. There's no connection here, so every you're come here, you're either going to enjoy the nature, or you're going to come here to enjoy uh, the Lord, and that's what I do. I come here to meditate upon His Word, and I think that God's Word really backs up uh, what we could only describe as a Bigfoot through things that were written in Genesis chapter 6. And I think in Revelations it talks about the beasts going to be released. And so I think a lot of people is going to be killed by these things. I feel like we're really living in the last days. And you really need to trust in the Lord. Now, some of you may come on here and be offended by uh, that. I love and believe in Christ, and I put all my trust in Him. But I can tell you that each and every one of us is running toward death. And then what's going to happen after that? Well, I have an escape plan, and it's Christ. And I believe in Him, and I know that He's going to rescue me in the end. That through the blood that He shed for me, I have salvation, and I don't have to worry, because my hope is in Christ. And I hope that's where you're at. Anyway, God bless. Thank you so much for paying attention.